Yo, peace. Welcome back to the Terminus City podcast. It's me, Mr. Totem, and today I have two beautiful guests with me, a heavily bearded and seasoned vet, Mr. EWOKONE from New York City, and my other homie, the Green Chili King himself, straight from Denver, Colorado, my boy JOLT1, Gorilla Garden Extraordinaire. Thank you for coming, boys. I really appreciate y'all being here. And this particular topic we're going to talk a little bit about style. Letter style, mostly. Because at the end of the day, we're graffiti writers. And honestly, I think this is one of those conversations that I've always had with other graffiti writers in passing, people that we all know and respect in the game, people that we know, like, every now and again, it's like we're trying to figure out this weird math that, you know, we're trying to convey through every single piece. Every time we paint this, look at this technique that I'm doing in this with letters, with bars, how to letter bend. And a lot of times those conversations get had away from the wall, where I feel like some of those things can be actually, you know, chopped up in a real way. A lot of this is going to be about where we're from, and coming from where we're from, a lot of this opinions, I think we learn differently, you know what I'm saying? And I think, and we're going to find ourselves chopping that up and figuring it out, you know what I'm saying? So, yo, on the real, like, I think what we gotta really touch on today is where y'all came from, where you came from, and really, like, just a brief, like, how you really got into graph to where you started loving the letter, man. And yo, my man Ewok. Oh, you want to go with my man Dan? God, my brother. I got it. All right, rock and roll, brother. Yo, so really, like, okay, when you think about the letters you chose, how did you end up getting to the name Jolt?
It was given to me. It was a b-boy name.
Oh shit.
So there's a park called La Raza Park,
yeah,
and we used to b-boy there. We would all break, and we kind of started to realize, like, people had aliases, they had names, you know, and like yo, we gotta give each other names. So my homeboy gave me the name. I gave him a name. He's no longer here. He's passed, but he gave me the name Jolt, and it was just like, to us, they sounded like b-boy names.
Yeah,
the name Jolt sounded like a b-boy name to me, you know. So that's.
So what was his name?
Oh shit, that's a good question. I don't even remember, bro.
Yeah.
He didn't stick with it. He went on and became a gangbanger and adopted a new name, a different name for himself. And so the name I know him as, you know, was a different name. But, you know, at that time, it was what we were doing in the neighborhood was b-boying.
Yeah.
And graffiti and trying to rap and DJ and like all these things at the same time.
Word.
But,
well, E, how'd you come into your name, man?
I had a bunch of different names leading up to it through the years, but I think my tag I stuck with was a direct result of, like, having to evade police in my area at the time. I had to literally shut down shop on what I was doing prior, and then obviously as an arrogant fucking teenager, I wasn't ready to just quit, so I had to find some new name. And those words at the time, it felt like a super challenge, like the 4 letters. Like, E's are super cool. W's are very complicated.
Yeah.
O's are horrible. Like, nobody wants the letter O. So I was like, well, if I can flip that, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
And then the letter K at the end was like a nice, if you can master a letter K.
Yeah.
They felt like a challenge of combinations of letters.
Sure.
So, and at the time, truth be told, like, it was a name I thought nobody would ever pick. Like, oh, I'm safe. That's a name no one would use. Like, why the hell would anybody write that? Fast forward.
Yeah.
But it's all good, man. So, like, it was just a challenge. A very complicated W next to a very simple O felt like a weird challenge for me. And the 2 bookend letters at the end felt like I could do amazing shit with that. So that was something that at the time I wanted to learn letter structure before colors. So my earlier stuff, if you remember, and it's funny because there's this Paint Lewis events going on right now. this weekend.
Yeah.
And I kind of peeked in to see what was going on. And yo, how funny is this shit? We were out there in 98 and 2000, and our main shit was, you're gonna look at the letters. We're not hiding behind colors.
Yeah.
And we're gonna force the letters down your throat with like simple fills. One solid color fill, black outline, maybe a drop shadow. That was it. Maybe a pop color for 3D or whatever. I looked at the fucking walls, and like, here we are 23 years later, and I'm seeing like a heavy majority of people doing one color pieces out there now. And I'm like, whether they realize it or not, I'm like, we started that shit.
Yeah.
Because everybody was doing colors, and I had nothing against colors, but I was like, in my mind, I was like, I'm not a master at colors yet, or lettering, but while I'm working through my kinks, I want people to see my journey. And when I get a good grip on that, then I'll start adding 2 colors in, and then maybe 3 colors. But there was a long period of time where I was like, I just want to focus on the style and lettering.
Yeah.
And so
you see it more because it's black and white.
yeah, exactly. I wasn't hiding behind anything. If I made a mistake, I was open to let you see it. You know what I mean? So that was the journey early on. Right. But it's funny how I don't know if people are realizing what they're doing, or they're just kind of mimicking things that they think look cool. But that was our intention for that 2-color, solid outline, solid color fill.
Did y'all know each other in 98?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was there too. I was there in 98 too.
You were
there?
Yeah, but I didn't know either one of you guys.
Were you alone, or did you?
No, I was there with a big group of Denver guys.
Oh shit.
Yeah, there was a bunch of us out there.
Yeah, that was Paint Louis 98. Man,
Yeah.
that was. I have terrible memories of Paint Louis 98, mainly because of how St. Louis is.
Yeah.
But as a writer that ended up there and being young and still trying to like make the bones, I think that's something that at that time we all kind of like found ourselves immersed into, where we had to represent where we're from when we came to there, you know, like. I came across the name Totem, me personally, like this is before internet, this is before anything like that, back in 92. And my name I actually found by putting my finger in a dictionary. That's dope. And I was searching for a name. I had a bunch of different names, and at the time I was writing Genius. And it just didn't feel right because the Wu-Tang Jizza dude, you know what I'm saying? I was like, yeah, that's his rap name. So let me, check a few names and stuff like that where I can probably think of something. And Christmas night, I had a dictionary on. I put my finger into the dictionary. It just so happens, slid it in there when I opened it up. At the top of the page, Totem, to represent a clan or family. And I was like, that's dope. Oh boy, I think I think I got something there, because at the end of the day, I'm very much about my peoples and like my friends and stuff like that, because, other reasons. But other than that right there seems like that was like, bang, that was the fire for me to hit the ground running. And, like in the Atlanta scene, we had even a number of different writers that wrote names that like, and it's a topic of, conjecture that, where there's like New York writers that are famous, but they were famous in New York, and in Atlanta we didn't know them. So we had a Case here, we had a Hayes here, we had a Noah here, and of course there was another Totem, and I'm Totem, and I didn't know nothing about it, but that was Atlanta in the early 90s, and we discovered each other like similar as going to like a Paint Louis. So when we all end up in a place like where there's all these writers going on at the same time, they got a point to prove, they got style to show, and they're also representing where they're from through their style. And that was one of the, actually, and I'm glad you brought up Paint Louis, because really like Paint Louis, I feel like the people who were there during our time, they weren't playing. There wasn't like, there was no such thing as the street art, so they couldn't hide behind like goofy stuff, Well,
yeah, I'm just adding to your thing, but yeah, like now it's like a mix of it, and I have my own element of like feeding a caricature to like a different audience, so I kind of like separate the two.
Sure.
But that wasn't even a thought at the time. Like You were representing your area with what you wanted to showcase, and like, you might not finish, you might get into a fight, your shit might get buffed, and you lose your spot or whatever. And it's all stuff that happened. I mean, people went out there and shit happened the night before. A lot of stuff happened out there. 98 and in 2000. So I have like 2 years of memories. And yeah, a lot of stuff happened. So it's all.
Nobody even knew Denver had a graffiti scene, or knew anybody from Denver at that time. When we showed up in St. Louis, people were like, "Okay, this is what Denver people look like and act like." And I think they thought we were gonna be cowboys. And
how many of you were together?
Like 4 carloads of us. Jeez. And we weren't even all riders. It was just
going out there to mob out
motherfuckers.
Yeah. And that's the weird thing too, because while I was out there, I was with the Atlanta guys, but I was also with like my buddies who are now, MSK and stuff like that, and some of the MSKs from where I'm from and MSKs from California, and it was before any of like the big, representation or rep that they got from being out there and doing, the next level above and beyond type of shit. It was actually still a really heavy proving ground. Like, I think Paint Louis was good for that. Like at least that as a minimum. When you came from Denver to go to that, like, really, what were you trying to show people as far as your painting goes, as opposed to just being mobbed out with so many people?
I'd never even left Denver. I'd never been out of Denver. I was just in the right place at the right time, and Scape, rest in peace, he talked this like rich white kid into like taking his parents' car, driving us out there. And I was just like, okay. I went home at like 2 in the morning. I told my parents, yo, I'm going to St. Louis. And they were just like, okay, be careful.
How many hours was that?
It was like a 14-hour drive or something like that. Yeah, and this is the first time I left Denver. And so I never seen, I knew who a lot of these writers were from magazines or Videograph and things like that. But I touched down and, Twist is there, and Saber is there, and New York heads are there. You're battling, you're doing these robot joints with Sever, and I never even seen a piece. I didn't even have a ladder. The biggest piece I could do was whatever I could stand on, pallets and shit like that. So to me, it was just the whole, like, I was just taking it all in. I did a piece. I still like my piece. I look back at the pictures. I don't even know how we knew about it. Right. I don't think anybody had a connection to some out-of-state cat that was telling us to meet him there.
It wasn't like there was flyers.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Like
it was word of mouth.
We just,
what date to show up and all that, like, I don't even know.
We just ended up out there, like, I don't know.
Yeah, we really ended up just out there.
We were racking paint the whole way.
Yeah.
There was fireworks stands, so we were stopping and buying fireworks, and we ran out of gas, so we had to like steal some lawnmowers and like siphon gas, and it was this crazy
wild out shit. Yeah. No, but I think like that was really on some, when we were in that ragamuffin age where it's like, yo, man, writer shit, like, I don't think people understand about writer shit is where, like, whatever we got to do to get there, whatever we got to do to get it done is all part of the
process.
The process. So when it's funny, I always hear these stories about people like getting to Paint Louis and stuff like that under extreme duress and different types of like wild ass circumstances, similar to Scribble. And I feel like that's something that America misses, and I'm glad that Paint Louis is back, but Scribble and Paint Louis was one of the best venues for people who were trying to display style where they came from. So when I went, I feel like for me, when I went to Paint Louis in 97, I think, was it 97? 98, when me and you were together, right?
You drove out in the tan car?
It was in my friend's red little shitty car or whatever. I can't remember what it was, but I did that blue 3D piece. Do you remember that?
I remember you painted on a red background.
A red back. Oh no, that was another time. So I went before that. So I went in 97. But when I went in 97, that was when more or less I made my bones, because I went there, everyone was doing their regular pieces. I was one of the few that did a 3D piece. I did this gigantic, all bladed, it used to be my shark style, went in an angle. And the biggest thing on it is I painted a corrosive sign that you would see like on like a railway or something like that, but bent into the 3D, and people bugged out over it, and it ended up in Scribble magazine on the front page. And everyone at that point was like, yo, who's this kid? And I was just a dude from Atlanta, just like, yo, I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna duff out what I've been doing here in Atlanta. But it's like no one knew what's happening over in Atlanta. They don't know what's happening in Denver. They only know kind of what's happening to New York via the graph pages in the back of the source, maybe a couple zines, a couple little things like that. But there was no real way of like swapping that look. So when you went to a place like Paint Lewis or Scribble, you'd go out there and you'd be like wowing them. I remember pieces, you do a piece, if you did something that no one's ever seen before, you just wowed these fools. And I remember when this dude came down there with the .com crew, and was I part of .com right before I met you, or
I don't think you
officially?
were there yet. I think it was around when you came out.
Right. No, the one with you, yeah, I wasn't. I don't know if I wasn't down yet. I was with Hudat. I was in Hudat.
Yeah.
So you were there with, it was you, Demon, Jedi, and Ultra, where you did the long joints.
That's a 98.
98.
Yeah.
So when I went there and I saw that, it was like this dude was on the same wavelength I was. His way of doing letters was just this like New York, but not New York. New York, but like, I would almost say like the same vein as like digital madness meets like almost cyberpunkish madness of letters, but like twisted. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got flicks of all that. I still got the connector flick like taped together, you know. I was 16 years old.
Oh snap! See that
kid,
he ended up painting there, and they ended up getting a whole lot of fun. It was almost like all the other states was beefing with New York that Paint Lewis, and it was funny because I'm from ATL, but I was already Tats crew, and it was like me and him just was like, all right, man, you know, surrogate. New York, ATL against everybody else, except for the LA guys. They were always cool with me. But why did it go that route with you, man?
So I told the story so many times, and there's a guy, I think he's one of the presidents of CBS, Anger.
Yeah, Anger.
So he's the homie since back then. He's the homie. So as it would be, I don't know if this was before or after the Tupac Biggie drama was going on. I think it was after. I think Biggie was killed in '97.
Yeah.
So that had to be like right around that time.
So echo.
So who the fuck thought it would be a great idea to put New York right next to the LA guys, right at the first part of the wall? So we rolled up day one, rolled out our spots. We had a guy on our crew named Demon.
Yeah. Demon.
He got arrested.
202 Demon.
Day one, he's in jail. He's in Central Bookings in St. Louis. We're hanging out with the LA dudes. They're showing mad love. I'm like, yo, there's this big dude, Swan. He's the homie. This other dude, Anger, and all these other guys are just like, I'm like, this is the coolest shit. These dudes are mad cool. I'm thinking it's going to be on some Biggie, Tupac shit. These dudes are all mad cool, right? As the day's going on, more of these CBS dudes keep coming and coming.
Frame.
Yo, and they had like fucking 30 dudes. They were rolling heavy. And I was like, these dudes are not playing. They're running out of space. They're stacking up on top of each other, like legit running out of space for paint. And we kind of like spaced our shit out. Not to be arrogant, but we didn't think they were going to have that much of an issue with space. So our demon was right on the end of our wall. Our wall was like me, I think Jedi, Ultra, and then it was a Demon piece. Demon's locked up. We're trying to just handle shit till he can get out, bailed out. There was a couple MCs came out. They were doing some Pumpkinhead, rest in peace, making records. These Brooklyn dudes are our homies. They bailed him out, drove him back to the wall the next day. In the night, when we were all back in the hotel doing whatever, I guess there was a guy that was down with the CBS dudes whose name was Demon.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really there to see that we were all kind of kicking it on some cool guy shit. We were all chilling. He sees that there's another Demon or hears about it, and the day, right when I think our Demon got dropped off at the wall, he had literally just came out of bookings for like a day and a half. No food, dirty clothes. He's just happy to be free. And this dude comes running across the field at him. He's like, what the fuck's going on? I didn't know there was another demon. I didn't know this was gonna pop off. So immediately it was like a Warriors movie, like a wall of us and a wall of them. We're way outnumbered, but I don't give a fuck. Like, it's about to go down. I don't care if I'm getting stomped out. I'm fucking dudes up. If I'm going out, other people are getting hurt, period. We all had weapons, the whole nine. It was really close to getting bad. And I'm sitting here like, half of these dudes we're kicking and we're sharing drinks and beers and shit with them. Now all of a sudden it's just turned into this, well, us against them because one of them kind of set it off.
Yeah.
And our demon is clueless. He's like a deer in headlights. He's like, what the fuck's going on? He doesn't realize what's going on. He doesn't even realize what's happening. And everybody's like pulling stuff out. Half of them dudes, you could tell they were like trying to rep, but they didn't really want to get him down. And I'm like, no one's fucking my boy up. Like, I don't care who this dude is, what it is. But it was just so close to getting turned on, and this big dude Swan came and bear hugged his boy and lifted him up and pulled him out, and that like dissipated the whole thing. And Anger came over. He's like, listen, man, you guys are mad cool. Sorry about that. He's just, we tried to tell him to chill. He said he would chill, but he didn't. And he's like, you gotta understand. I was like, yo, homie, it's no big deal, man. Like, I get it. I totally get it. That's your squad. Someone acts up, you gotta have his back, even if he's in the wrong. We'll work it out later. Yeah. But I mean, I'm not mad at that. Ever since then, I've seen Anger a few times through the years. We had drinks at one of the after parties. He was with this dude Axis, who's another OG LA dude. I respect all them dudes. And ever since then, like, we've been cool, through the internet, through the years. Every once in a while, kind of talk to him a little bit. Yeah. But we always had this funny little story that happened back then. But in the process of that whole thing, what I was trying to get to is their wall kept growing and growing and growing because they needed to stack more people. Yeah. So eventually, they just overlapped over where the demon's sketch was because it just looked like unclaimed area. Yeah. They just took the whole spot and it was right to us, to them. And then we just painted the whole time. Nothing happened. But I remember one time we rolled up in the morning and it was like a crashed motorcycle. They must have somebody must have stole somebody's Ninja and like crashed that shit right into the wall. It was just all beat up, plastic, all over the place. They were just wilding out probably like into the night painting because we came back the next day and it was like all almost done. We're like, dude, they must have been out here all night painting. Yeah. They were like hungry to fucking paint. But those dudes are crazy. I watched their documentary. I think it was on like Netflix. They've been around forever, man. I got nothing but love from them, and I've heard the story now through that whole squad.
They themselves.
But that's a little piece of history that not a lot of people know about. But a lot of those dudes were there, and I had a chuckle about it years later with that dude Anger. But good times. But that's the thing. You see pieces finished, you don't know about the backstories that happened. And I mean, I even had other things happen in 2 years later in 2000, which he was around. Yeah. So I mean, there's always going to be like what people think your image is, and they got to act a certain way. And then like years later, they find out that you're not that image. And I'm like, yo, I'm just mirroring you, homie. Like, you might think I'm a certain way and you might act that way, but I'm not the asshole. I'm reacting to your asshole. Like, if you're a fucking asshole, I'm going to act like that back to you. You're cool. We're all good. But I've never been a punk to get like, stepped on or like treated a certain way. Like, I don't play that shit. So if you're cool, I'm cool. Everything's fine. But through the years, like the New York, LA image, and then everybody in the, in the different cities, that was a great place because you met a lot of people from different areas that I didn't know. All I knew about was a lot of freights. I knew there was freights, heavy freight community scene in the middle America. Yeah. And there was tons of dudes out there that were all freight dudes I never heard of. But when they painted the walls, like, yo, those dudes are dope. Saw them for years later. I was like, that dude was at St. Louis. That dude was at St. Seeing these dudes for years. A lot of dudes are still around. Yeah. 23 years later, still around. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, Much, Ember, all them guys. Seeing them on a wall was interesting because I'd only seen Trains.
Yeah, man.
I never seen.
It's even more interesting when standing toe to toe with them. We had a bunch of. I feel like a lot of those moments were a conflict of egos more than it was a conflict of like your ability to paint or what you're kind of doing. I think we all kind of respected each other's like way of approaching painting, but it's just sometimes, man, like people put a battery in the back and it goes left, because a lot of times, like I spend a good amount of my life paying attention to the New York scene, right? And in the New York scene, like you got the heavy hitters at that time, like, and it was really like, of course, like the certain effects, like Impact, and then of course the Tats crew at that time, and then like you had these other like little ones like UW, and you had FC and like all these different crews from the New York scene, and I think the world was watching, right? So it was like that crew style, that crew style, that crew style, and all of those styles kind of like the only way they got presented like in this production type of way, right? So when you see these productions, that's like, yo, who could bust the hottest production? Because letters for letters for letters, everyone was looking right. I think from the New York perspective, and I'm just kind of like guessing in this, they looked at the California way of stacking all these pieces and jamming all that stuff, not like New York didn't do it themselves, as more like not fully developed when it came to when you could just do this huge production and it had like a cohesive like theme. And I feel like that might be because maybe some of the Europeans came and like really turned that in that direction, you know, namely Dime, Lumet, Hesh, you know, those type of Delta, Toast. But when you break it apart, right? When you break apart these like the things that usually ended up at Paint Lewis, like the productions, right? If you break it apart, it's like you got Cess, you got Scene, you know, Dime, Lumet, whatever, or, you know, then of course, namely, you know, Dash, West, you know, Bio, Biggie, and you start like separating all it. Now you got to pay attention to the guy, right? Like T-Kid, or you know, Case 2, right? Like they used to do, because like on the train, it's like style. When you're looking at each guy, right? I felt like at Paint Lewis and all these different joints, you got to really look at the person's individual style, which, if for his case, where they had mentioned when it was Ewok versus Ewok, it was truly style versus style. It was like your flavor versus your flavor, and that was always like, you know, it could have went any way, right? And in the New York, when I was living in New York, it was like you had FX versus Tats Crew, and that was really heated a lot of the times because, you know, FX was made by, you know, rest in peace, Per, and you know, Per used to be a Tats Crew member. You know, T-Kid used to be a Tats Crew member. All these dudes who eventually went and made FX, but truly FX is, you know, made actually from Nicer and Nomad. So you have all these like stylists that are basically battling letters to letters. Forget all the batteries in the back. One thing I noticed when I was out there is at that time, Cess was like the man. He made his bones right there with that, right? Did people in like Denver, like, did they even like care about the New York scene, or even like, oh, I don't know really much about New York, but I know Cess?
Yeah, so we had like hip hop shops. So we had access to magazines. So we had all the magazines, all the videos, all that shit right in the hood. Like where I lived in my neighborhood, there was a place that it was supposed to be a dollar store. Before there was dollar stores in the hood, this guy was gonna open a dollar store. And it was across the street from a place called Servicios de la Raza. And if you got caught doing graffiti, you had to go do your juvenile, your little program there. Well, all the kids doing the program would peek in the door and be like, yo, what's this store gonna be? You should open a hip hop shop. So this guy said, okay, bring me some magazines. And he started ordering stuff out of the back of Can Control and all that. So he opened the hip hop shop. So I would go buy like On The Go, or you know, all these magazines, and just be like redrawing pieces without having any sort of understanding or somebody telling me things, you know. And we had access to it. We seen it. Our scene goes back to like 81 in Denver, and they were heads that were coming from outside of Denver. So we had style already too that we had seen. Those guys weren't still writing in the 90s. I started in 93.
Who was a big influence?
Mac, there's a writer named Mac. There's a dude named Voodoo, who was from New Orleans.
From New Orleans, wow.
Rasta 68. There was a lot of, let's see, I6, Yush, a lot of writers that nobody will ever know of, you know, outside of Denver.
They won't know it unless you say it.
Even the Denver heads nowadays don't know, because the older writers than me that had that history didn't really pass it on. A lot of them kind of wrote themselves as the victor into the story, where they didn't really, they kind of shunned it. But there's a book called Crimes of Style, and it's written by a man named Jeff Farrell, and it has like maybe like pictures of like 5 pieces in it, but it's a book on it's a sociological and a criminology book.
Oh, damn.
And it's really one of the dopest publications on graffiti. And I'm saying out of all the books I've read and everything talking about graffiti, it really is. It's super fresh, but it goes into the history of it. So if anybody wanted to know, you know, especially any heads from Denver wanted to like study the history, it's all there in this book.
That book is from Denver?
Yeah, it's from Denver. Yeah, it was
Denver made.
Written by a guy that was an instructor at Regis University. And I've been in touch with him lately. I read it when I was younger, and it wasn't as entertaining. I'm looking for pictures and things like that, and I really didn't have like the vocabulary to even understand it at that point. Now going back and rereading it as an adult and understanding what the picture he was trying to depict, you know, it's incredible. I was not even if you're from Denver, just if you're a writer, that's a great book to read.
Right.
So there's a history there, and a history with knowledge of, you know, the pioneers of the culture. But when it got to us, we were just like, we were doing like Cholo neighborhood tags, because that's what was passed on to us, you know, from our dads and all of that. And, you know, so we're already doing art with spray paint, but then we're seeing these magazines and trying to just figure it out for ourselves, which I think we managed to do over time.
Did y'all pay attention to like the California scene in a strong way?
Oh yeah,
Like,
can control, you know, and the trains. We weren't seeing many East Coast trains until NACE did all those super clean burners. Like those really stood out, and we understood that as being like some New York. And it was like Wolf, them dudes, I don't know, this dude Wolf, I don't know, like we would catch like a Zephyr boxcar maybe every once in a while. But it was really like, we seen the West Coast graph on the trains. We would be more than likely to have like somebody from the West Coast come through Denver, you know. So we would see it, experience it like that. But Can Control magazine really was.
Yeah, because I noticed that the California scene, right, actually had a lot of influence from the New York flavor. Like you got guys that I remember, like Saber, Crush, even Dream. Like they had these, like they had the Cali look, but they had a New York like bop to it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's one thing that really cemented the West Coast guys with all the New York guys, and still live in the hearts and minds of any real New York writer, or even anyone who understands style as a whole. That's why when you look at Dream's pieces and you go, man, what is so fly about this guy's style? Like he can make such not complex pieces look so complex just off of the subtle connections of his bars. You know, God rest his soul. When I look at some of that stuff, I go, man, I see that, of course, in the New York way, but I see that in a number of these, to me, high-level stylists from the West, especially LA. You know, when I saw Saber doing some of those stuff, and this is before he started going into his arachnophobia, fang type letters and stuff like that, he was very structured. And that structure is almost like either you got it or you didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I wonder that when it comes to the Denver guys, if like you had, or if there were a few dudes from where you're from that had that.
Yeah, voice.
Exactly.
Voice had it. And they were like drawing it directly from like the B-boy culture. We had Quick Step, and Quick would come out with piece books. And we would see these books with all this New York.
Quick Step would come out there?
Quick would go, when I was in the sixth grade, Quick would come to my school, which I lived across, it was across the street from the projects, and he would teach an after school program. Yeah.
Yo,
the whole ghetto originals. So we're looking at,
I didn't know that.
We're looking at these piece books with like legendary stuff, you know?
That's dope.
And then fast forward, like a lot of our bombing style comes from Boston writers, from DK, Alert. 5AV. Wow. He came out to Denver, and when he came out to Denver, it changed the style drastically. Hand styles we started to understand and develop based off of a lot of what he was doing too.
Alert, you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Alert was notorious for always having like incredibly groundbreaking handwriting.
Yeah, and he moved out to Denver in the early 90s.
Amongst other things too, but his handwriting.
You should have
and he got busy. He was up.
Yeah.
You know, he was up. So it had a huge influence. Oh, wait.
But yeah, I've heard many stories about him just taunting the Vandal Squad from Boston.
Oh man.
Yeah,
He was crazy. He was like a
epic dude.
Satanist, and
Yeah.
he would take dudes' peace books and like tell them he put a spell on it, and give them back their peace books with like a pentagram ingrained in the cover of it. Yo, he was ill. He was fucking with people.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I wonder if people know that he was like, hey, guess what, man? I'm gonna have a gargoyle coming for you.
Yeah, they know he was haunting. He was haunting cats in Denver.
Did you? I mean, you saw from the New York. You know, high
I
top.
studied a lot of this stuff, man. This is because just I was obsessive for like so many years.
You saw Dream and all that.
Yeah. So like I was just gonna add to what you're saying, but I was curious what you were gonna say. Like, I watched like Risky and like
Risky.
you know, like
Risky.
Frame and you know these types of guys. You could tell who were very early videograph days, man. It's like when you're seeing their stuff. They like there was a love for New York at one point from the West Coast, but the era's changed a little bit. And then you know, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but like the LA guys got like a good feeling of like ownership of like, nah, we're doing our style now.
Yeah.
And they had like this, they locked down like this West Coast style where they got away from that prior New York,
Yeah.
like a leftover 80s feel.
Whereas like Porn and them.
Yeah, Porn and them.
BTK guys,
Yeah, like
and then
and there's
moved
still
over to-
dudes now, like you know, like Trickster and these dudes who sort of still have that like almost dream style kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But they're also trying to capture that old school New York feeling. But there was I mean, around, I don't remember, I can't say speaking for like Revoking these dudes, like who he was particularly influenced by, but like when those guys kind of got their like Voltron thing popping off,
Yep.
they were working off of each other and they embodied this like new look
Yeah.
that changed the game in that era because that was the first time that they were not, I don't want to say emboldened to like having to feel obligated to do some New York shit to feel validated, but they were doing their own thing and it was a positive reaction from the scene.
Yeah.
So-
no, they brought
Yeah.
that New York
Yeah.
structure, but then they gave that LA gang letter swag to a New
Yeah.
York structure.
Yeah.
And I feel like all of us saw that and went, yo,
Yeah.
that finally describes the California style to
Yeah.
the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And like C's, you know, we knew C's. I had a connection
Yeah.
with C's, MSK, AM7,
Yep.
and he knew
Boy.
Revoke, I think, from the AM7 days. So I was watching. I had an early window of what these guys were doing on the West Coast from New York before any of the other New York guys were paying attention. So like through C's and them, they would come out east, Revoke and Sever, and
Yeah.
I forget who else on many different trips. But I'd be like rooting to get these guys down on some New York walls because
Right.
like I was like, yo, I would tell these guys that I was painting with, I was like, yo, we got to put these cats on a wall. They're really dope.
Yeah.
And these dudes are like, who? What? LA? Like, I'm like, yo, listen to me. They're really fucking doing some dope shit. And I said, if people saw us in New York inviting these dudes in to paint with us, it's a good look, dude.
Yeah.
And I said, I met some of these dudes, they're cool. I said, it would look dope. So kicking and screaming, I actually got some of these dudes to like allow these dudes to want to paint with us. I mean, they didn't need my permission, but I wanted to invite them to what I had going on at the time.
Right.
And so, like, in the daytime, they're painting with us. The nighttime, these dudes are out doing fucking billboards and, you know, that shit that they are known
Evans
for.
was new.
They were working double time. Like, I'm telling you, these dudes were hungry to get this shit known, and they fucking put the stamp down. And so, like, I'm kind of hyped that, like, looking back at it, that I was kind of like, I had the foresight to try and, like, yo, paint with us, get on these walls with us. And, like, we had a couple classic walls painted with dudes that, like, went on to go and crush shit.
Why do you think there was an opposing?
Like I said, there's that
force?
leftover weird Tupac Biggie bullshit that was going on, and like you either
Like
I
every
can't explain
writer, like
most New Yorkers, because I'm a New Yorker, but I'm from New York State.
yeah,
I came down mid '90s to get my feet dirty in the city. There was an element of the city writers that were on some fuck that, fuck them dudes, like you know, like no matter what, them dudes would come through and stomp the hood, put a fucking stamp on it and own it. And the locals would still be like, nah, fuck them. Like they just they didn't want to give up the props. Like I've always been like, yo, if you earn it from me, you got it. I'm not on some like hater type shit. If you've earned it, I'll give it to you. Always.
Right.
Hands down. I'll even take you to the side and be like, yo, dude, you're doing dope shit.
right.
Whoever it is, keep it up, you know? But it was an element in New York that they just were hating on anybody outside getting a name, a bigger. There was always an element of that, you know. So it's like I dealt with it myself coming up, like the stuff that we were doing in St. Louis. The older dudes, I would say 98% of the old, maybe 95% of the older dudes who at that time were in the prime of their careers hated on us. And then behind the scenes, as a couple of years would come by, people come up to me and I would sit down and talk and they'd be like, yo, you're doing some crazy shit, blah, 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 blah. Like Vulcan and fucking, you know, Futura and dudes like this and Phase 2, rest in peace, and Case 2. Like these dudes who I really looked up to. I mean, I got stories, man. I did a piece in the Hall of Fame. This is like highlights to me. I did a piece in the Hall of Fame one year and I left. And then like a week later, this guy I was friends with was going to the Hall of Fame to take pictures. He said he went down the Hall of Fame. And there's a dude standing there in front of my piece, just sitting there chilling. Nobody's in the Hall of Fame, it's empty. It's that dude Sento. And he's sitting there just looking at my shit for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, that's not something that anybody else would know. But that got back to me from the person who knew him. Yeah, and he was like, yo, I just came from the Hall of Fame to take my photos. And this dude Sento was standing there looking at your shit, like trying to figure your shit out. And I was like, he knows what's up.
Sento boxcars, you know, in the 90s in Denver.
And to me, that was at the time,
tripping on his style.
That dude was like the epitome of illegal nighttime graffiti. Like that was like the ninja and the stuff that I looked at. And to me, that was the highest regard. And a few other people like you, when I met you, I was like, I loved his work. Revoke was doing some incredible shit. At one point, I was like, I love that dude's work. This guy Gesso was doing some cool shit. At one point, I loved his work. I tried in my way to kind of reach out to these people through whatever networks we had at the time. And I was like, I just want to sort of like see if we could bring together some of these types of people in the same kind of walls and formulas and just to see what happens. Because it was fun to just like throw everybody's stuff in a wall and see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you loved their stuff.
Yeah. Right? And you know, people took and pulled styles from people, whether they, you know, realized it or not. And you see it years later.
All those people, they loved you back. And I feel like the particular group of us, whenever we looked at each other's stuff, we're like, dude, it would be so dope to do something together, right? Yeah. But I almost feel like the atmosphere wasn't right for it yet. I feel like now you could do those kind of things without any type of you know, inhibition or any type of like obstacles, because the world is more open to it. But like back then, I don't know what it was, but there was a streak of anger in letter graffiti, even amongst the best ones, that I still to this day try to quantify that, like, why was that the case? You know what I'm saying? The Tupac versus Biggie thing, I never really thought of that. That's actually,
that added to it was in the air.
Yeah, like that kind of like vibration, like literally that vibration that was going around. And I don't know if you even noticed any of that being over there in Denver. Y'all probably had your own version of that thing going on amongst like maybe like before we were talking about your salsa or whatever with New Mexico or whatever. Sometimes I think that it's like almost like a regional thing, but it seems like, dang, from all the way from California to New York, all the way down. Like in Atlanta, we didn't really feel the pressure between New York and California because we were all the way down here. We were almost like country boys, you know. And
Denver's very West Coast. If you're gonna relate it to anything, you relate it to the West. You know, we're our own thing. Yeah, it's Aslan. That's what we consider it. But it's very West Coast. Our whole culture, everything about us. So in the '90s, when you know this music had such a huge influence, hip hop, and all these great albums were coming from the West and the East, like. Our neighborhoods were gangs. It was called Summer of Violence, 93. That's what they called it. And that's when hip hop really hit the city too. And people would say, oh, you're East Coast. If you had a hat that said New York, or if you were listening to any sort of hip hop, or if you had Thames, or you were emulating what you were seeing on Rap City and shit like that, they would say, oh, you're East Coast. You're East Coast. And a lot of people really embraced that, but we were trying to rock Thames and listen to Black Moon in an '84 Cuddy on Trues. You know what I'm saying? So
that sounds like some like Atlanta shit.
We were
just like that.
We were embracing like hip hop, and a big part of it was like me. I'm coming from a house where my dad's a veterano. He's a gangbanger, so it didn't appeal to me like it did a lot of the dudes that were in the streets without their dads, or they didn't have that. Like my dad had caught bodies in the house. Like this was a thing. I didn't want nothing to do with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at graffiti and all that as like yo, I can't no longer go to the parties in the neighborhood because the gangs are so separated now that I can't, even my friends from the same block, I can't really kick it with because they got beef, and you know, the girls don't even want to kick it with them dudes anymore, but these hip hop dudes, they're fucking with us. They think that we're the coolest shit ever. But yeah, they were.
Did it start out as fashion, or did it start out as graph, or did it start out with breaking, or did it start out with just the music?
You know,
How did it
just
get
kind of
past?
hit, bro? It was just popular culture. All of a sudden, was all those things like.
How did it
you're
get past the gang culture, and how did it get past this Aslan, you know, really Rasa type of viewpoint?
We just embraced it real hard. I think it was the music first. I think it was the music, and because then, you know, we're seeing the graph in the videos. We're seeing, you know, and then like say like the artifacts. What year did the artifacts and all that come out? You know, and we're already doing. I started doing graffiti when I was 8 years old. You know, neighborhood graffiti. I wrote my neighborhood forever, and everybody did.
Right.
And then we found out like. Fat caps. You could go to this store, you could get fat caps, and they got fat laces for your Adidas.
Game over,
and then like tribal gear shirts, and you know that whole silk screen culture of the Echo shirts when they used to come with mixtapes. You would get the dope like audio airplay or underground airplay mixtape with it. You know, like Grand Poobah and all that shit. Like, so I think all them things just sort of like just all happened like at once. It's like, yo, all of a sudden. Yo, you know, we hip hop, we're repping this, you know, we're not a direct lineage of it, and it went through, in a sense, Hollywood before it got to us. You know, we're not seeing trains outside our window, but we can go to Blockbuster and rent Style Wars. And I had, like I said, I had Quick and other dudes in the neighborhood that could fill us in on the culture behind it. Like, what is, and they're teaching classes. Literally, we had hip hop class after school, and we would go to hip hop class, but we were sitting there with pioneers. You know, like Mr. Wiggles was coming to our school as a guest speaker.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, we're sitting there.
Shout out to Wigs.
Shout out to Fiends. There's a dude from Denver who was a gangbanger that really embraced the culture, and still to this day does a lot for the youth. And he's really like a big part of like saving lives. Honestly, like he really did teach a lot of us the culture, and we ran with it, and it, you know, turned into a lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, it always makes me wonder, like, when I think about how, like, Denver came up as opposed to, because, again, like, you guys have a really strong Chicano culture that's already kind of been ingrained long before hip-hop showed up. And then when I see it go down, sometimes I think about how we did it here in Atlanta, because in Atlanta, we're really more like black culture here that's just not New York black, but like old school country black. You know what I'm saying? So down here to us, you know, we don't really have like the deep Spanish culture already kind of pulling you one direction. We don't have like, you know, this already built into this New York party roads, what do you call it, block party scene or whatever. It didn't pull us. We're like, you know, really flip-flops and socks and sweatpants, man. Like, we really are on some, like, our own type of black culture down here, which is why now, you know, it's considered Black Hollywood down here. And the way that hip-hop even permeated down here, and the love of letters actually was a direct migration from New York. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we didn't trip off of the Timberland boots. Matter of fact, there were more people here trying to be like, yeah, technically, yo, dog, yo, I'm from New York. You know what I'm saying? They got a little wonky, a wonky ass like
I
New
remember
York.
seeing that in the hood.
You know what I'm saying? No, that's how we get down out here.
You know, one thing to understand.
I'm from the Bronx, homie. Like, what? You don't even. They don't say that. They don't say that.
Art in the streets already existed because the Chicano murals movement started in Denver. Before there was murals in Chicano Park in San Diego or in East LA, it started in Denver. Because the veteranos went to Mexico and studied under Siqueiros, one of the great muralists, because the movement put money behind him, and they sent him there. Emmanuel Martinez and Leo Tanguma and all these great muralists. So we were growing up with art as a weapon in our community. Art was being used to fight against all these crazy things that were going on, you know, and to claim the public space and all that. So we grew up with that, like painting walls, and the community would be, yo, they're painting a wall over there by the Jets. Everybody's out there. It's a block party. So before you seen that happening with graffiti guys doing legal walls or whatever, it was already ingrained into the culture of Denver since the early 60s.
So did those older guys keep going?
Yeah, they're still
Are they
going.
still around?
They're
How do they feel about actual graffiti, like graffiti letters?
They would have been writers.
They would have been writers.
They would, if they were younger at a different generation, they would have been writers. They love how quick we can produce murals, and you know what I mean, and how easy it is,
right,
and all of that. Yeah, they would have totally.
I trip out how they sign. You know, me just coming back from San Diego. Shout out to Chicano Park and people out in Dago, Logan Heights. I saw, you know, they signed their murals with almost placa type of hand styles, you know, like in just regular writing.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, that's technically, is that Cholo handwriting? Is that Chicano handwriting? Is that gang handwriting? Like all in the same? So sometimes when I think about that, like sometimes that the artists want to distance themselves from the actual like gang element, or the even like almost like the negative connotation that is behind like a Cholo culture. You know what I'm saying?
The Cosafos, you see, you know, the C/S. You'll see that in all the old murals. You know, the Pachuco cross. You're gonna see all those things, you know, all these icons that are still ingrained into the Chicano art that still exists. I don't know. I think it came from the Cholos, though. It came from the gang culture. Except the cross, though. The cross goes.
That's Los Pochos.
Pocho is like to call someone pocho. A lot of people think it's a disrespectful thing, but for us, it's like caught in between. Like. We're not really home here. We're not really home there.
Right.
We're this in between.
Right.
You know, so we embrace it. We rep it.
It's really like Chicano culture.
Yeah, it is.
It's just straight up.
And we're mestizos. So our people are from before the lines were drawn. We've been there.
Right.
We're the Indios and the conquistadors mixed.
Yeah.
So you see the three face, you know, where it's like a face looking this way, and in the middle he has the brocha, the big mustache, and that's the modern day Chicano.
Right.
But it's really that one face is representing our lineage.
Right.
Yeah.
And that right now, like they're still expressing that particular culture of art on murals and walls and out there in Denver.
Oh yeah, heavy. It's.
Do they use can?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. And there's guys using brush too, but it's just as relevant as, if not more relevant than a lot of the.
Do they ever butt heads with graffiti, like actual writer shit?
Yeah, right. If writers disrespect them murals, it's kind of like if you paint over an old school mural, like you fucked up. You fucked up. You should have a.
Even if it's a new old school mural.
If you are even doing that, you're coming from the lineage somehow. You know what I mean? You're connected to it. So and it's speaking to the barrio. It's speaking to the community usually when it's that aesthetic of art. So anything that's doing that as opposed to being just wallpaper for gentrification.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
there's a deeper respect for it, I think. But yeah, the Chicano murals movement is very much so alive and wow. And now we're creating historic districts. And we're working within the system to protect it, and we're bringing back old murals that were painted over, and we're peeling the paint off and bringing these old murals from the 60s. And, yeah.
Do they have that kind of thing in New York where you live? Do they have like that type of cultural like?
No, it was
it runs that deep.
You saw the rest in peace memorial walls have been a staple in New York as far as I can remember, but like. Truth be told, like I'd be in the weirdest hoods in New York, and I would see Tats Crew doing memorial walls, you know, because they were like the most professional that could actually replicate a photograph of somebody. So, I mean, I was seeing that since the mid '90s. I'm sure it was going prior to that, but that's been a staple in New York everywhere I'd go.
Yeah,
was those type of like crispy, clean memorial walls. But prior to that, terrible stuff. I mean, I saw like just random dudes from the '80s who's like. Somebody in the neighborhood got killed, and like that's the guy that everybody knows wrote graffiti. So they would go to this dude to do it, and it's just like a lot of that shit is terrible, like really bad. But the Lower East Side had some elements of nice stuff, but a little off sometimes.
It's like A. Charles, some of the A. Charles and stuff.
Well, somebody else.
Oh, that's the baby.
Baby, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Because I remember seeing that all
guy.
throughout when I was there.
But
The
stuff
crack
like
is wax and stuff like that, and
there's always
that's
been
the
an
best part
element
of
to
the
that
wine.
kind of stuff, but it wasn't like. I don't want to say there wasn't pride, but there's an element of New York is like just go there one day and get it done and leave.
Yeah.
So like there wasn't any like, oh, come back tomorrow, come back again and do it again and again. Like, well, like the person who's using brushes, they're thinking it's going to take me 2 weeks to do this.
Yeah.
Spray paint dudes have like no patience. They're like just going to get it done and go home.
Yeah.
But like brushwork, they're out there until it has to get finished. Come back tomorrow, come back, you know. But the graffiti with spray cans, they might not even know what caps are. They're just using paint that they got at the hardware store, trying to do a memorial wall. So a lot of times when you're in the hood and you're doing a wall and it's a memorial wall, all of a sudden there's like 50 people behind you. Like, well, put my name up, put my aunt's name up that died, put my brother's name up. So
Oh,
now
it
all of
just
a
gets
sudden
rallied.
you see the wall that's dedicated to one dude. And this is the 90s, dude. It was like the Wild West. I'm talking like hundreds of names just fed onto the wall last minute because everybody wanted their friends or brother or somebody who got killed
Right.
from the hood. And it was like, that's the wall for the hood. So if I'm coming in and painting, I'm not touching that.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
and like in some cases where we were going to paint over it with somebody from the neighborhood who got the wall, we have a list ready. When we put our wall up, these names are going back up
Yeah.
for them.
Right.
And so it's funny, not funny, but like this guy PG3,
Easy, yeah.
TPA dude passed away, Bushwick legend,
Yeah.
George. He passed away, I think around like 98. I knew of him through the homies and friends and shit like that. I didn't know him personally, but I met him prior. One time, met him at a gallery show in Soho, and he died not long after. So I had a weird thing to know who he is when he passed away. Didn't know him enough to hook him up, but I'm sitting there painting in Bushwick, a wall that your son pulled up on his phone. I was like,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
was this at? And it was like, this is in Bushwick. It was the week he passed away, and I'm painting a wall in a corner in Bushwick, and this homie's hanging out on the hood of the car with us, just a guy from the hood. His name was Charlie 106 or something like this. I forget his name. But he was like, just like, pretty much crying to me about his boy passed away and this and that. And he's like, yo, could you put his name on my wall? And so this is on like the Saturday afternoon. So I'm tired at the end of the day. I hook up PG3, rest in peace. And then I go home, come back the next day, and I'm just like, oh man, I rushed that. It's not really looking that good. And I'm thinking to myself, I could redo it better, the little PG part.
Yeah.
Now it's part of my piece. I gotta wrap it and make it look good. It's not, I don't want some afterthought.
Yeah.
So I go up and I buff out the PG3 part.
Right.
And I'm telling you, in that 2 minutes of me taking the PG off
Yeah.
to attempt to put one back up,
Yeah.
I had about 10 people going, oh man, yo, that's fucked up, yo. And I'm like, yo, chill. Make it better, relax. I know he was the hero in this hood. Like, I got you, don't worry. Like, they're really like diehard about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I actually did a better job, and I felt better about it. But yeah, if it wasn't for
That
like,
piece that my son
Yeah.
brought up, I'm sure it's the one I just saw, and it was like a dark teal fill.
yeah, I think it was like Rusto Fills.
And you had like these like guys coming out and like a metal sign that almost says like Brooklyn 2000 or something like that.
1999, I think.
Yeah, 1999. Yeah.
98 or something like
Yeah, something like that. I saw it and I was like thinking to myself, I was like, man, because I saw that PG and the little TP at the bottom, PG3, and I was like, oh dang, I don't know him, never knew him or anything like that, but
It was one of the first walls we did where we came down onto the sidewalk, and people were like, what? Oh my
that's
God.
right, it was down the sidewalk.
Yeah, like, why didn't nobody ever thought to come down on the sidewalk?
Yeah, I think that we were some of the first to ever like take it from the wall and just spill it onto the ground. Like we were big about doing that stuff, especially the drop shadows.
Oh,
you
yeah, for
especially.
sure.
Seeing,
Trying new things, man, at the time. People weren't really into trying to do things like that. Or if they had the idea, they didn't feel comfortable enough to try and break the rules.
Right. Yeah. In Atlanta, like we had, I think, almost like the most immature of like, cultural thing aspects of that. We didn't have the Chicano culture to be like, hey, there's an OG that paints all these murals and stuff like that with a brush or anything like that. And we didn't have like all the rest in peace murals and stuff like that, like all throughout New York City. Atlanta, we really didn't have anything like that because I think if anything, we were just so behind. We were just so behind on anything cultural that's involving art, but mostly involving sociological stuff that goes on in Georgia that pertaining to either black culture or the black movement of history and things of that nature. So for us, like, we didn't have like murals depicting, you know, these heroes and stuff like that. MLK was about as close as we got, and we almost felt like those kind of things was just a concession. And we still had like General Lee statues and, you know, different types of, you know, stuff like that, like Confederate stuff.
Lingering around.
We had a weird, almost racial undertone here that didn't allow the artistic expression to come out in that way. What we ended up having more was more the dance and the food and the music, and that's about as far as we had. To us, self-expression was gold teeth. You know what I'm saying? So when I decided to go out there and you know, tag with all the rest of the guys who were out there doing it also, we didn't really have any mission other than to just be like, this looks like what they do in New York, or this looks like what they do in California, or this looks like what they do. And I come from a gang neighborhood. In my neighborhood, I don't even think the gang mentality is even the same as what they are on the West Coast. It's similar, but it's like as if you took like the Savage Skulls and just give them like a Spanish name. It was almost more like Chicago stuff, almost as far as like where I'm from. And they weren't really like about any kind of artistic expression. They were just like, man, we just like this hip hop, and that's as far as it went. And then at the end of the day, I feel like the best thing that we got was Source magazine when they released the damn graph pages in the back.
Chino.
Yeah.
Chino.
Shout out Chino.
My boy Chino, shout out to you, brother. Then that's the thing about him. I feel like that put graffiti on the world scale as far as in Atlanta. I mean, as far as in America goes. We started seeing pieces from everywhere. I think we lusted to find that, because that was that, you know, like you had the magazines for graph every now and again here and there in these little cutty spots, like your little the store you was talking about. But we saw the Source in almost every Kroger or you know, what do you call it?
Once a month, straight to the back of it.
Straight to the back.
Yeah.
Just like MC's going for the 5 mics, we were going for them graph pages.
Yeah.
And
Wall of Fame, Taft Crew, the
man.
black and white production that they
Yo.
did. That shit
I feel
changed
like
my life.
it sure enough did, right?
Yeah.
Like I think graffiti owes a little bit of a tilt of the hat to Chino just off of the strength of that.
Yeah, I told him that many times.
For sure.
I sat down with him and told him how the impact that was, and he's heard that from a lot of people through the years. So he definitely knows.
Yeah.
He knows his importance and what he did for the scene, for sure.
And my boy Chino, the tallest Filipino in the world. This guy's like 7 foot tall, and he could dunk on you. But see, like at the end of the day, one of the best things that ever happened to me is I got into the graph pages. That was for me one of the most highlight of the highlights of my life. You know what I'm saying? Because I felt like if you made it in there,
Absolutely.
it was like only the best of the best made it there. And that was for me 1997. And you know, if it wasn't for that, I don't think people would have like tried the style, and I don't think graffiti would have grew the way it did if it wasn't for that.
For sure.
And at the end of the day, man, like I really wanted to kind of like touch upon all of this and get the standpoint from different parts of the United States, from Denver, from New York, and then from Atlanta. And this is a subject that sooner or later I'm gonna retouch again so we can expound upon it deeper. But I've been blessed enough to have my brothers come and visit me, and I wanted to take this quick moment to just see what their mind was about when it came to that subject. So I want to say thank y'all for coming to chop it up with me, man. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we could do this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, man.
Man, Terminus City Podcast. My boy EWOKONE, New York City, Jolt, Killer Man from Denver, and Mr. Totem, Tats Crew, Burn Unit, we in the building. We love y'all. Peace.
Yeah, that's dope.
Oh, that was right about close.
Terminus City.
I was stuck on an island.